Teacher Laura here. I just wanted to share a few takeaways from doing summer camps. Last week I concluded a very long run of summer camps and I learned quite a few things along the way. So I just want to share some things that I would personally apply to my next run of camps, whether they are winter camps or summer camps. So just to give you an idea of what I've done only fun stuff. I am really big into social clubs and fun things for kids. I do a lot of crafts. I make my own games. So my summer camps consisted solely of crafting and fun game stuff. So for the games, maybe another day I'll share how I make those, but I create my own games, trivia games, and then I also make some crafts. So for the crafts, I made a lot, okay? I made quite a few things. For one of my camps, we were doing Koroks from The Legend of Zelda. So I do have some examples, so I will share those sometimes with my class, just to give them ideas, just so they could be inspired and figure out what they wanted to do for their Korok. However, I had quite a few of these summer camps. So I'm not gonna lie, I didn't make like 20 Koroks and 20 of every single project. And that's where I'm going to explain what I did. I kind of cheated, but it's a really good hack if you're teaching a lot of the same class, because sorry not sorry, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of supplies, and it is a lot of effort. So I've got just a few tips for you to help you with that. So one of the first things I'd like to mention is for my summer camps, I always try to make sure that I had everything available well in advance. So I would have my little patterns. As much as humanly possible, I try to make my own patterns to avoid any issues with someone saying that I stole their work. So I actually hand drew this. Made sure I had this uploaded to the classroom in advance, and I would have this in the classroom. So right before we make our project, if we require some kind of printout, I always make sure everyone has this. If they don't have this, I direct them to where they need to go to find this. So I would always have this ready, but, and this is where I have one of my hacks here, I always had the pattern pieces already cut out, okay? In some cases, I do tell the students to cut out things ahead of time, but whether I do or not, I try to have this cut out ahead of time myself, because I'm not gonna cut this out 20 times. Here I've got my Korok and my little Korok face. So I already have that ready. And as we go, I also had all of my pieces pre-cut out, okay? So I would always show my students what they needed to do. I always explained and demonstrated, but in most cases, they never saw me cutting anything out. I mean, I might have my head down, I might look like I'm cutting something out, but I wasn't actually cutting it out because, again, I'm not making 20 Koroks. I don't know what I'd do with 20 Koroks. I mean, I guess I could give them away or something, but it'd use a lot of materials, and it's just easier to have this already pre-cut out. So if you pre-cut this out, what I did, as much as possible, I would take my pieces and I would stick tape on the back so that it would look like I glued it on, okay? You can do this with felt, you can do this with foam. That's the beauty of putting this kind of craft together, okay? So that's how I did one of my projects. Another one of my projects, and it's one that I'm probably not gonna do for a while because it is a little more involved. We made what I called a stained glass picture. And it's really cool. You stick it in the window and you can see the picture really well, but it involves quite a few steps. So you have to trace something out on a page protector, so I always did that ahead of time. But as well, you have to put all of these little pieces of tissue paper on the back with glue. So my hack for this is, there is a printout you need for this. So I always leave my printout in here at the beginning of class while I'm explaining on the first steps. With this project, they did need to draw this on before class because it does take a while. And I know not everyone is good at drawing and tracing such a big thing on. So I would have them trace this first, and at the beginning of class I'd only show them this, and it would just look white because the pieces of paper would still be in here, but on the back I already would have some started. So in class I would demonstrate how you need to put the tissue paper on the back, but I did not complete this. This takes a while, and again, I'm not making 20 of these. I'm not putting 20 links in my windows all over the house. So at the end of class, I would show them this one, okay? So I try to keep the colors the same, short and sweet, and it just makes your life a little bit easier to do things like this so that you're not making, again, 20 of the same project. So those are just some tips, like if you're doing crafting, some little hacks just to make your life a little bit easier. And a couple of other things that I would recommend. So if you're doing a project in the class, I mentioned that I would hold up this paper here and to show them what they needed. Make sure that you show them any templates that they need, and if they don't have it, to direct them to where they need to get these. Also, I always do a supply check. So literally, I will hold up my supplies. I'll be like, okay, you need the template, you need some scissors, you need some kind of glue, and in the case of the project that I was showing just a moment ago, I always show them you also need some felt, let them know how many colors they need, and always also mention any alternatives, okay? So for this project right here, I usually use silicone glue, but I always clarify you can use silicone glue, felt glue, fabric glue, tacky glue, hot glue, white glue, anything except for a glue stick, like a cold glue stick. If they're using hot glue, I always try to remind them, be careful because it's very easy to burn yourself. Sometimes the adults will be there to help with the hot glue, sometimes they aren't. Some learners are okay with hot glue, others need an adult there. So make sure you offer all the alternatives. Speaking of alternatives, with that project that I just showed a moment ago, I used felt, but not everyone may have access to felt, especially with the whole COVID thing going on. I have had some people say they couldn't find some of the supplies. Offer alternatives. So be like, okay, you can use felt, but in a pinch you could also use some crafting foam. And you can also mention, hey, if you don't have everything, then you could just, cut out the paper pieces and put those together and color them, or you could use colored paper. So try to leave some good alternatives out there for the learners who might not have exactly what you're wanting to use for the project. Make sure they feel okay with what they're doing, reassure them it's okay, it's still gonna look cool, it's still gonna look nice. So make sure that everyone has exactly what they need. And as far as the classroom and the outschool classroom, what I try to do is, if I put up templates, I put those up the day before the class. And there's a reason I do that. I'm sure that I drive some parents bonkers because I've had parents be like, hey, I don't see any templates up, do we need anything? I put this up the day before because I have heard too many stories of teachers talking about how they posted everything up already in advance, and then whoever signed up the learner goes into their classroom, they downloaded all the templates, and then they just left. So they essentially got a refund. They did not pay for the class at all. And I know not all parents or all guardians or whoever does that, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I do it primarily for that reason, but also it's a little bit less confusing to put one template up at a time so that a parent's not having to wade through 20 templates to find exactly what they need for that day. So that's how I do that in the classroom. And additionally, when I post my templates, I do a reminder as far as the supply list that they might need with my supply list and my classroom listing, as well as in the post that I put up with the template. I always remind them exactly what they need, and I do try to remember to let them know, hey, if you don't have this, you can use that. And again, I always mention alternatives, different kinds of glue they can use for a certain project. There are some projects, like this one right here, you do have to use a certain type of glue. So with this project, you cannot use hot glue. I've had some poor learners come in with hot glue, but I would not advise that because this plastic can melt. So in this case, I'm like, you need white glue, aka school glue. So Yeah, try to do that with your templates as well as your supply lists within your classroom and also within just the class listing. I definitely advise that as well. So speaking about listings, just a few tips. So if you're wanting to do some kind of a camp, first of all, I would just kind of look through the Outschool website, just do a brief search. So before I ever started this stuff here, I looked to see what other teachers were offering. Is there anyone else doing Legend of Zelda camps? If so, are they doing exactly what I'm thinking about doing, or am I differentiating and trying to do something to make myself stand out there? So I have seen Legend of Zelda camps. I've seen art camps. I've seen like history camps. I've seen a really cool sounding one. It's like about Legend of Zelda mythology. I'm not going to steal that. I'm just saying that I've seen that. I personally am really big into games and crafts, so that's my thing. So I go in, try to make sure no one's doing what I'm doing or wanting to do. And I also try to make sure that when I list my class, I make the name of my classroom something distinct. So when I went in, I did not see anyone else using the title Breath of the Wild Summer Camp. So that's what I used for my classes. So make sure no one else is doing exactly what you're doing or wanting to do. Try to be different to stand out and get people's attention. So in my case, I think I went a little bit crazy this year, and I really don't think I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to explain what I did. I really like Legend of Zelda, and so there's so many Zelda games you could choose from, and I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going to do multiple camps, and that was a good idea, but at the same time, not a good idea. So I had an Ocarina of Time camp. I had a Majora's Mask camp, I had a Twilight Princess camp, and a Breath of the Wild camp. Guess which one everybody wanted? Everyone wanted Breath of the Wild. I did have people sign up for Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, but by and large, everyone wanted Breath of the Wild. So while I did, I got, income from the other camps, it would have been better to just stick with one. So that's one lesson learned. I will definitely stick with probably the most popular game the next time I do something like this. I had a lot of requests for the Breath of the Wild camp, even through like my last week of giving this camp. I still had someone requesting another time for it. So try to figure out what everyone would actually want, and don't go crazy differentiating, making a million types of the same kind of theme, okay? They still were popular, the ones that I mentioned, but they just, as far as my time and worth, it would have been better to just stick with Breath of the Wild. So I did do Legend of Zelda camp, and then I also did a Star Wars crafting camp, and I was very pleasantly surprised by how that went, because Zelda was 3 days, 1 game and 2 crafts. Star Wars was 4 days, 4 crafts. It went really well, and I had multiple people asking if I had like part 2 of this, like another Star Wars crafting camp. I did not, which I kind of regret, but at the same time, I had so many of the Breath of the Wild camps. There's only so much I could fit in. I'm also a mom, so there's only so much I can do in the day. I've got a child to take care of. I've got other things to take care of. So it's just, I had to pick and choose what to fit into my schedule and when. As much as possible, I did try to fit in new sections for parents when they requested them. Parents, guardians, whoever was asking for the classes. So I would definitely suggest try to offer a good variety of times, morning and night, because you do have people in Europe and in Asia. I had someone from South Korea in my class. People from all over might want your class. So try to be flexible with the times. And if you can, do try to accept the parent requests for a different schedule. And as soon as you make a new section for whatever's requested, definitely write the parent back to let them know exactly when you've scheduled that camp so that they can sign up their learner. I got a lot of learners that way. And I really like it when the parents request something, because I may not necessarily know when they could have their child come into my class. So it helps me so much if they make a request and then I try to fulfill that request. So as far as my sections are concerned, just to give you an idea of how it went for me, In total, once I have finished all of these camps, I will have given the Breath of the Wild camp 20 times. That's why I kept saying I'm not going to make 20 Koroks and 20 stained glass links. I gave all of the other camps twice. So I gave Ocarina of Time twice, Majora's Mask twice, Twilight Princess twice. The Star Wars camp I gave 5 times, but I really very easily could have given that probably a couple more times. It's just, it was really hard for me to fit that into my schedule because it was 4 days instead of 3. So that's how that went. And as far as enrollment is concerned, I've noticed a lot of teachers really strongly suggest that you start listing your classes ASAP, which I do recommend that. So I don't think I started actually listing until around end of April, beginning of May, which I don't know. I like to plan things ahead of time. But a lot of teachers had already, before I even started listing, they already had their summer camps up. So I would say at the beginning of the year, go ahead and be thinking about those summer camps, when you want to give them, which ones, and how often. This year I do intend to give winter camps in December, so I'll try to make another video and let you know how that goes after the fact. So I'll be taking a lot of my tips from today, carrying that over into my winter camps. But I would suggest planning the summer camps. Think about what you want to do, what you're wanting to do. 4 or 5 months in advance for sure. Same thing with the winter camps. That's what I'm going to be doing with those. So be planning those in advance. I really didn't see a whole lot of enrollments though until I want to say the end of May, beginning of June. So don't get discouraged and don't go crazy canceling if you see they're not filling up, because I had a lot of last minute people signing up. My last 2 camps that I did the last full week of August, I had people still signing up for those Breath of the Wild camps 1 week before they started. And in some cases, I did have people sign up at the very last minute. So don't go crazy canceling, wait. I got the majority of my enrollments, I want to say in June and July, primarily June though. So I want to say at the absolute latest, I had my listings up, I want to say around beginning of May at the latest. So that means I had all of my camps up for a month, but I really didn't see much activity as far as enrollments until June. So don't be discouraged, just go ahead and put your camps out there and see what happens. So those are my tips as far as the sections are concerned. And that's just a little bit about my experience with my camps. So if you're going to do some kind of camp, especially if you're doing crafts, try to do some hacks like I mentioned. Have stuff prepped so you don't have to make the same thing a million times. Make sure that in the class you are very clear about what students can use and any alternatives, because not everybody has the same stuff. And as far as the actual listings and stuff, just go ahead, plan your camps in advance. Try to put a lot of schedules out there. At the same time, don't panic if you don't have a lot of enrollments. Give it time and just wait and see what happens. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, and see you in the classroom.